Hello, check one, check one. Hello, check one, check one. Okay, I am in. So it's been like what, almost a year I've streamed properly. So it's been like I was just checking. See? So anyways, so it's difficult for me. By the way, Happy New Year, Happy Ramadan, Happy everything in the God's green earth. Um, I want to. Okay, this is weird. So here's the thing. It's really difficult for me to sit and think that so much crap, so much shit is happening in the world, and I'm just quiet. And it's not because of me not feeling anything. It's just because it's too much of a responsibility to say what's right, and sometimes I feel like I don't always do that. I might not always do that, but yeah, to anybody who's watching, like, I wanted to share some videos with you guys on stream about, like, certain things that are happening in Palestine right now. In fact, this stream is supposed to be called Palestine, except that yeah, I guess it is called Palestine, right? I don't know. And like, I feel like it's really important to actually say something at this point, and at least get people to see what is happening. If you are blind to whatever is happening, I want to be able to show that. I want to be able to talk about it. I want to be able to show people what actually is happening, because what's happening is people are cooped up in their own world, and they're worried about COVID, and they're worried about money and their families and everything else, and they don't see what is actually happening in the world of, for example, in this case, Palestinians at the moment. And it's really, really disturbing what's happening there. And I actually have a friend who messaged me a few days ago, and he was like, have you seen the news? And he's Palestinian, so I was like, I hope he doesn't mention Palestine, but he did. And he's like, he shared some videos, and he's like, what do you think about this? And I was like, genuinely, I care, but I've been avoiding it just because I'm scared about how I will feel about it. And at the end of the day, that's kind of a very selfish thing to think about and say, but that is what I feel, that it's difficult to think about this stuff when you have all of these problems of your own. But the problems that we have, the problems that you and I have, are so minute in comparison to all these things that are happening. So I want to share my screen right now, and just show you certain clips, and this is just my way of helping out in any way I can. I mean, I can't go to Palestine right now and fight a war. What I do think I can do is actually just share my screen to show people, what actually is going on in the world right now, in Palestine right now, specifically. Like I said, I haven't streamed for a while, so I'm just wondering how I should get into this. Give me a second, I guess. So yeah, I mean, desktop audio. So I want to check also if you hear what's happening in these clips. For example, so Trevor Noah, I haven't listened to Trevor Noah for quite a long time. But then he just went all out, straight out, and baffled everybody by speaking his mind on the subject. Let's see if you can actually hear it. I'm gonna. If you can hear the desktop audio, please let me know. Okay, I guess you guys can hear it. I'm just gonna increase the volume a bit.
The Hamas rockets stopped by Israel's missile defense system, or they fell short. Israeli strikes reportedly killing at least 23 people, including 9 children. Israel saying the dead were militants. At least 6 Israelis were reported injured. Tensions have been escalating over Israeli moves to evict Palestinian families from their homes in East Jerusalem. They boiled over as more than 100 workers and protesters were injured as Israeli police poured out Al-Aqsa Mosque using tear gas and rubber bullets.
Yes. And look, man, what makes Israel-Palestine such a difficult topic to even broach is all the layers that are packed into it. No matter how much you try and break it down, people are always going to say that you're leaving out some crucial piece of context. And you know what the truth is? They're probably right. I mean, there's the history of how Israel became a state after Nazi Germany tried to destroy the Jewish people. But there's also the history of the British taking the land from the Palestinians. Not to mention that every other country in the region has its own issues and its own agendas. And then on top of all of that, there's religion involved. And I don't care what anybody says, man. Religion is the one thing that has never calmed any situation when there's a clash. And you know what makes it even harder? Is the fact that who's right and who's wrong always seems to change depending on when you start measuring time. This week was the perfect example of it. If you start from Israel fired rockets into Gaza, well then Israel is the bad guy because they're bombing Gaza. Mm-hmm. But then you take a step back in time, you go, well, Hamas fired rockets at Israel. Well then Hamas is the bad guy. But then you take a step back and you go, but the Israeli police, they went in and started beating people up in a mosque during Ramadan, the most holy time in the Muslim calendar. Well then Israel is the bad guy. But then you go, well, the Palestinians, well, they were throwing rocks. Well, the Israelis, they were kicking people out of their homes. Well, the Intifada, well, Israel keeps taking more and more land. Well, the Arab invasion, back and back and back, and who knows how far. Like, you'd probably find the first cavemen who hit each other with clubs were probably Israeli and Palestinian. I don't know. And look, I don't want to have that argument.
What we do know that Trevor Noah's hair has definitely grown over the past year.
I want to have that argument in the
bad joke
goes back and forth in this thing because honestly, I don't think that any TV show in 10 minutes is going to come close to solving Israel-Palestine. 10 minutes isn't even enough time to explain the Mortal Kombat conflict. So I'm not even trying to come in and do that, right? I'm not trying to do that. the part where we say who's good and who's bad and who started, let's step away from that and instead ask a different question. Instead, let's look at who's dead and who's alive this week. In Gaza, Israeli airstrikes have reportedly killed 28 people, including 10 children. Over 150 people have been wounded. In Israel, Hamas rockets have killed 2 people. And this exchange of fire comes after the Israeli assault in and around the Al-Aqsa Mosque that left more than 600 Palestinian protesters, worshippers, and civilians.
See, this is the issue. This is what's fucked up in this world right now, that Israel basically attacks a mosque where Palestinian Muslims are praying, and they injure 600 people, and then Hamas fires 2 rockets or a few rockets into Israel, and 2 people either died or were injured. What do you say right now?
That left more comes after the Israeli assault. And this exchange of fire comes after the Israeli assault in and around the Al-Aqsa Mosque that left more than 600 over 150 people have been wounded. In Israel, Hamas rockets have killed
2 people. And that's the thing. This is the most disturbing thing in the world right now, that after these rockets were fired by the Hamas into Israel, that is what made the fucking news. So this has been going on for like about 5 to 6 days now. This happens every Ramadan. This happens every single year during the month of fasting, which is supposed to be a very religious, a very relaxed and calm month for Muslims. And this is exactly what happens every single year, except here's the difference. People like me, I just have 100 subscribers on YouTube, so I'm basically nothing, but there are so many people online. There's so many people online who are talking about this now, and social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, all these places are at a stage where all of this shit cannot be forgotten anymore, and there are going to be people who are going to be talking about this as much as possible. For example, Trevor Noah is one of the biggest celebrities in Hollywood right now with the Daily Show, but and he replaced Jon Stewart now. That's a big deal back in the day, and that's a big deal now as well. And he's not shutting up now, and that's the big thing, because social media is not going to allow people to shut up anymore. There have been times in the past where I've actually talked about Palestine and Israel, and my account has been blocked. My privilege to post anything has been blocked because I'm preaching hate crime. I'm preaching hate towards Israelis. That's literally what was said. Every single time, by the way, I have mentioned that, okay, this page of the Israel Defense Forces is saying this thing about Palestinians, and it's attacks against humanity through Facebook and social media. All of my concerns have always been denied. Apparently, those things do not go against community standards on Facebook. But when you mention, Israel, and you mention that, Israel is attacking Palestine, that becomes a huge issue with Facebook. And that's what I've noticed in the past. And so many people complain about it. But and please understand this, that there's no way in hell am I saying that all Israelis are bad, just like all Palestinians might not be good, just like all Muslims aren't perfect, all Christians aren't amazing or perfect or bad. This is something that needs to be understood, that yes, religion really does end up dividing people, but we start painting people with the same single brush, that okay, Muslims are bad, Christians are good, Trump is bad, Biden is good, Democrats are good, Republicans are bad. This is not the case. This should not be the case, and we need to understand this. We need to realize it, because it's really scary how the world has become now. It's become like two sides. Every single thing has, people are in two sides, and that should not be it. There should be what's the word? There should be a union between human beings, to understand like what is actually good. Are they defending somebody because they're actually good, or they're defending somebody because they think they're good? That's really dangerous, a really dangerous topic, and a concern that's happening all over the world right now. And I think genuinely that we need to be careful about what's happening. Anyways, continue with the video.
Around the Al-Aqsa Mosque that left more than 600 Palestinian protesters, worshippers, and civilians wounded, and a few dozen Israeli police. Now, personally, I'm not saying for you, just personally, I cannot watch that footage and hear those numbers and see a fair fight. Like, set aside motives and intentions.
Hallelujah.
Acknowledge it. Israel has one of the most powerful militaries in the world.
Yes, it does.
They can crush guns like that.
Yes, they can.
One of the most advanced defense systems in the world. You shoot a rocket at them, it's probably not going to do anything to them because of their defense system. Right? They've got a giant Mutombo in the sky just knocking them down. And I know that this is contentious. And I know that people... But I just want to ask an honest question. If you are in a fight where the other person cannot beat you, how hard should you attack them when they try to beat you? Honest question. And I ask this question because I think when I was a teenager, I would always get into fights.
Checking sound again. Hello. Checking sound again.
But my mom would say,
Yep,
whenever I
it's
get
fine.
angry, she'd go, Trevor, don't hit the kid back because they can't hurt you. You're a teenager, and the kid is 4. And I was like, yeah, but the kid is hitting me. He could hurt me. But my mom was like, yeah, but you're also so much bigger than the kid. You can crush him in an instant. And please don't get me wrong right now, because I know someone's going to watch this and go like, oh, you're comparing Palestinians to children. No, I'm not doing that. I'm telling a story about myself. Honestly, I am. Because what my mom made me understand is that as a person who has immensely more power, I had to ask myself whether my response to this child was just or necessary. Could I find different ways to deal with this? Whether I felt aggrieved or not, or whether they were fighting fair, was almost irrelevant. Was I even able to ask myself the question about why they were doing what they're doing? Was I willing to admit guilt? This was all part of the question that I had to ask myself. But the main question I ask in this situation is about power. And please, again, I know this is not a great analogy, because I'm not saying Palestinians are children. I'm not just saying they're all children, right? I'm not saying that they're harmless or that they're irrational or acting out. I'm not saying any of that. I'm not. I'm just talking about the difference in power, which is something we do all the time. I mean, think about policing. If a man has a knife, should the cops shoot him? In many parts around the world, like in the UK, they say, well, we're going to do everything we can to try and not shoot the person, even at risk to ourselves, because at the end of the day, they brought a knife to a gunfight.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the right response? I mean, everyone has a different answer to the question, and I'm not trying to answer the question, nor do I think I'm smart enough to solve it. All I'm asking is, when you have this much power, what is your responsibility? According to the internet, Winston Churchill once said, "History will be kind to me. I know this because
Okay, so yeah, I was just putting myself on Facebook, putting this on Facebook, so I could actually get maybe some comments, some people who know me to chime in about what they think is happening, because actually a friend of mine who's a teacher, he mentioned that he used to live in nearby one of the neighborhoods that was attacked. In fact, this girl, Mariam, she is a musician. She's a musician in a band in Palestine, and she was detained by Israeli forces. And the conversation between her, I mean, the way she was handled, people holding her grabbing her with her hijab and just, pulling her around on the road, just dragging her, was harrowing as is. But the conversation that she was having eventually was just amazing. Let's watch it. What is it? This is Mariam Palestine. But wrong spelling. Detained by Israel. I mean, there are other videos that I actually want to show you, but there are some things that are happening. When I see that, I'll show it to you. But there are some other videos that I want to talk about and actually show. So, for example, well, not that one, that's me. There are different news agencies now that are talking about this, and lo and behold, fuck you, BBC, for handling things so badly in general. But there's this channel called the nationalnews.com. They have this idiot talking about this, basically U.S. State Department talking about Palestinians' right to self-defense. He's not talking about the Palestinians' right to self-defense. He's talking about the Israelis' right to self-defense. When he is asked if Palestinians have the right to self-defense, he does not really answer the question. So yeah, let's watch this video where he's literally just fucking barking.
We're speaking of the principle of self-defense. We certainly.
I'm asking if you think that the principle of self-defense applies to the airstrikes that they're conducting in response.
Matt, this is a very fluid situation. I would hesitate to comment on operations beyond, the rocket fire that is clearly targeting innocent civilians in Israel. So I would hesitate to speak to specific operations that have just occurred. But the broader principle of self-defense is something we stand by on behalf of Israel and every other country.
Do you think that an Israeli military response to the rockets coming in, military response to the rockets coming in is covered by this broader rubric of self-defense, right?
Self-defense often does authorize
Secondly,
the use of force.
I want to ask about East Jerusalem, but let's talk about what you said about the principle of self-defense. Does that in any way apply to the Palestinians? Do they have a right to self-defense? Do Palestinians have a right to self-defense?
Broadly speaking, Saeed, we believe in the concept of self-defense. We believe it applies.
Fuck you, answer the question.
I don't think that. I certainly wouldn't want my words to be construed as.
I understand. I want to ask one, Julie. I don't want to harp on this either, but the Israelis killed 13 people just now, including maybe 5 or 6 children. Do you condemn that? Do you condemn the killing of children?
Saeed,
I'm asking.
Please bear in mind that literally he was asked, do you condemn the killing of children? And he is not answering that question.
Do you condemn the killing of Palestinian children?
Obviously, and these reports are just emerging, and I understand, I was just speaking to the team, I understand we don't have independent confirmation of facts on the ground yet, so I'm very hesitant to get into reports that are just emerging. Obviously, the deaths of civilians, be they Israeli or Palestinians, are something we would take very seriously.
Okay.
You're going to know as soon as I read what your answer was that there's a big problem with it. You said that no problem, it just doesn't answer the question. We believe that it, meaning the right to self-defense, applies to any state. Well, you see the problem, right? Yes?
No, he doesn't.
Do you regard Palestine as a state?
I wasn't
Do you
referring.
think that, you
But
don't in the context of the ICC and the UN. So are you
and-
saying that you do not, if it applies to any state, are you saying that Palestinians don't have a right?
How can you smile? Oh God, this is so disturbing. I'm regretting this. See, I was telling a friend of mine that I want to stay online live streaming as long as fucking possible until something's done. I mean, I literally have work tomorrow morning, but it's so harrowing. Like, literally, he was asked, do you condemn the killing of children? And he's fucking smiling. This does not make sense, dude. I mean, fuck foreign policy of the US. It's always been screwed up. Everyone knows that. Everybody understands that. But smiling when you were just told that, hey, do you defend Israel while they have killed children? And literally you're not answering the question, one. And then literally you are smiling about how you're being asked a direct question and you are literally avoiding it. And you're very obviously avoiding it and you don't want to answer it. It's so damn obvious. I mean, they can't possibly think that everybody is that stupid, right? It's not possible, dude.
I was making a broader point not attached to Israel or Palestine.
Why? You were literally asked about Israel or Palestine. Why are you making a broader fucking point, asshole? Oh shit, I'm gonna get banned, aren't I?
Matt, I'm not in a position to debate the legalities from up here. Our message is one of de-escalation.
Oh shit. Yeah, I'm not sorry. This particular video. This is a separate video. This is basically his entire speech before he was asked all these questions. And check it out. Check out 311 downvotes, 83 upvotes. This is the Reuters, and the comments have been turned off as well. Yeah, and I understand that Reuters is completely neutral and they're just stating, what's literally happening. But it's really, me as a person, it's really difficult for me to think that I can not take sides in this current situation. This is the nationalnews.com, I think. CBC News, the National.
Gaza burned and billowed as Israeli airstrikes hit cars,
Canada.
factories, and homes in the Palestinian territory. In return,
This is disturbing footage, by the way,
Hamas
in case.
streaked out toward Israel. In a major escalation tonight, many were aimed at Tel Aviv, where residents scrambled for shelter. Earlier in Gaza, a 13-story residential tower teetered, then collapsed amid black smoke. Residents were warned to leave by text messages from Israel, as the Israeli army said it was targeting Hamas offices in the complex. There were no reports of deaths there, but the streets filled with the funerals of more than 24 others. One was an 11-year-old boy. Why did you kill him? Asks his uncle. Israel kills and no one answers for it, he says, even though the whole world is watching. Along the border with Gaza, Israel lined up its tanks, threatening an invasion. And in a meeting with military commanders, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was defiant. We are at the height of a campaign, he says. The might and frequency of our attacks will be increased. Hamas will be getting blows it didn't expect. Israelis were not expecting this escalation either. In the country's south, rockets from Gaza flew from dawn, some hitting houses and killing 3 women. We heard a boom and sirens. There was the smell of smoke, he says, as Israeli missiles intercepted rockets from Gaza overhead. A spokesman for Hamas in Beirut isn't making any promises about how long these will continue. He blames Israel for starting clashes in Jerusalem.
I'm not saying that we will continue firing the rockets. I'm saying that we will keep defending our people. We'll do our best to protect our holy places, the mosques, the churches.
See, that's interesting. I'm so glad he said that. What's his name? Osama Hamdan, Hamas spokesman. You know, I'm so glad that he said mosques and churches, because people assume that it's only Muslims in Palestine. One, people assume that only Muslims are the troublemakers. Two, and people assume that there is nobody but Muslims in Palestine. That's literally not true. Literally, Hamas, an organization that has been deemed terroristic, if that's the word, the spokesman actually is saying that we're going to defend our people, we're going to defend our mosques, and we're going to defend our churches. So anybody who actually is stupid enough to think that, oh, this is only an attack against Muslims, because I see it all the time. I see, there are people from different countries and they're talking about, how Muslims are the troublemakers and, oh, God bless the Muslims of Palestine. What about the Christians of Palestine? I mean, if Islam or Christianity teaches anything decent, is that you should be there to represent and to take care of people from other religions, including your own, in addition to your own, and that's facts. A person who is a spokesman of a seemingly terrorist organization is actually saying that we are going to defend our mosques and churches. So you know what I mean? There is unity between people of Palestine regardless of their religion, but things are not good.
Protect our holy places, the mosques, the churches.
Hamas now claims to be defending Jerusalem for Islam as Israel mobilizes its forces, and nervous world leaders call for calm. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News.
Interestingly, that kind of makes my point incorrect, I guess, but in terms of if what's Hamas doing, but I'm still happy that they said churches and mosques, so let's stick with that part. This is another one.
This morning, Jerusalem continues to be on the boil as tensions intensify. Israel carried out airstrikes in Palestinian territory after militants in Gaza fired a barrage of rockets at Jerusalem for the first time since 2014. Israel's military said on Monday that it had begun striking targets in Hamas-ruled Gaza in response to 150 rockets fired from the side. Now, the targets included 8 Hamas operatives and Hamas terror tunnel. Palestinian health officials said a total of 20 people, including 9 children, have been killed in the fighting.
So they killed 9 kids. Let that sink in, if that they literally killed 9 kids. And oh shit. It's disturbing, isn't it? This is really, really disturbing, isn't it? If this doesn't disturb you, there's just fucking something wrong with you.
Bloodiest days of fighting in several years. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, meanwhile, has accused the Hamas militant group of crossing a red line with its rocket attack on Jerusalem and promised a tough response.
Yeah, but here's the thing. They're talking about promising a tough response, but they actually attacked first. You do understand that they actually attacked the mosques first. They attacked people in Al-Aqsa Mosque first. They attacked people in different places first. Why are they retaliating? Why not fucking stop doing this? Why are you talking about retaliation and that, oh, they fired rockets at us, so we're going to fight back? If you're the actual initial perpetrator of the entire situation, I just don't get it. And it's amazing how US politicians specifically, they ignore this and they blindly follow this and they defend Israel in this situation. Hey Rev Michael Paul, welcome to the stream. This is gonna go all night, man. I'm so frustrated. See, just listen to this. We didn't want escalation, but he who chose to escalate will feel our arms strike. Fuck you, dude. You're the one who started it. Why are you talking about escalation when... What do you mean we didn't want escalation? So do you want other people to just roll over and fucking die? And that's what you want exactly? How do you expect people to not retaliate? How do you not expect escalation when your people are basically kicking Palestinians out of their own homes? I mean, someone fucking kicks me out of my house right now, I'm gonna not fucking go without a fight. That's just a fact. If you are in your own house and somebody just freaking pulls you out and tells you to fuck off, you're not going to stay. You're not gonna stay. You're not gonna go without a fight. I mean, that's just 101 life.
Now, U.S. Department of State spokesperson Ned Price on Monday...
See? Hamas fires rockets after clashes at mosque. That's like a single one-liner. Hamas fires rockets after clashes at mosque. They weren't fighting the Palestinians weren't arming up and fighting against Palestinians, getting ready to fight Palestinians in the mosque. They were praying there, and they were attacked by Israeli forces after prayers during Ramadan.
Renewed his calls for calm in the region. Price called the rocket attacks an unacceptable escalation.
Yeah. You fucking kick people out of your country and rocket strikes after
that. The United States condemns in the strongest terms the barrage of rocket attacks fired into Israel in recent hours. This is an unacceptable escalation. While we urge de-escalation on all sides, we also recognize Israel's legitimate right to defend itself, to defend its people and its territory.
See, that's the thing. Legitimate right to defend its own country. And when, we saw that that when reporters basically asked, when reporters basically asked this guy, what about the rights of Palestinians to defend themselves? He didn't want to respond. He didn't respond at the end of the day.
It is critical for all sides to ensure calm and de-escalate tensions and avoid violent confrontations.
Now, the past few days have seen the worst violence in Jerusalem for years. Fresh violence erupted at the Al-Aqsa compound.
Sorry, I have to stop this. This is not fresh violence after years or in years. This goes on every single fucking day in Palestine. This is how things are. Their daily life is this. I follow a bunch of people who live in Palestine. One person named, I think, Moeed Aftab. We'll try to search for him on Facebook. I follow his page. He is a journalist there, and he posts all these videos about exactly what is happening. They literally wake up and sleep on the basis of, are they going to fucking die today? That's literally their lives. This is not just a random thing that is happening after years or after months. This happens on a daily basis. Rev Michael Paul, the American government is Israel's lapdog. Well, yeah, Rev Michael Paul, that is obvious, but thank you for commenting and for being here. Yeah, I don't understand why, Michael. I literally don't understand why they are Israel's lapdog. Is it because of the region? What is it? I don't understand it. While the U.S. I've lived in the U.S. as well. I went to college in the U.S. My family lives in the U.S. I do appreciate the US for what it is, but in terms of foreign policy, they're fucking shit.
On Monday, triggering more unrest to an already volatile region. Over 300 people have been injured. Israeli police fired flash grenades, tear gas at protesters near the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound to defuse the crowd. And Israeli police said they used riot control methods after hundreds of Palestinians began throwing stones at them. Jerusalem has become a focal point. Palestinians began throwing stones at them. Police said they used riot control methods after hundreds of Palestinians began throwing stones at them. Jerusalem has become a focal point of Palestinian anger over what they see as years of efforts to push them out of Jerusalem and to limit their access to this region. Now, the situation has been aggravated by right-wing Jewish Israeli efforts to assert control on East Jerusalem, which Israel claims is part of its undivided capital. Now, Palestinians and Israeli police have clashed in recent days amid tensions over a looming court decision on whether to evict Palestinians from their homes in East Jerusalem. Israel's Supreme Court delayed a hearing on the eviction scheduled for Monday due to the raging tensions here. WION is now available in your country.
Right? That's what it is. Thank you for the 4 viewers watching. Let me reiterate why I am here. I've decided to show the world through whatever viewers I have, what is actually happening in Palestine. And if I can make a little tiny, itty-bitty little difference in the lives of even half a Palestinian, I have done my job. I'm happy. I'm really happy about, my agenda tonight and in life in general. We sit in our houses and we basically complain about not having enough money, not having enough investment, not being able to meet our family or eat that really good steak that's really expensive, or how we complain about jobs or something like that. But at the end of the day, these people don't have a fucking life, do they? And it's really disgusting to see. It's really disturbing to see, actually, how they go day in and day out through their lives, like these really, really, really shitty lives, and literally nobody does anything. And like I said in the beginning, if I can do my little part in this via social media, why the fuck not, man? I mean, I've kept my legs up, my feet up, and I'm sitting in an aircon room with everything I want under the sun in the world. So if I can do this much, why the fuck not? So thank you for being here. Michael says, Zionist agenda. Israel has been taking the Palestinians' land for decades. Israel has bought off many of the politicians in our government. Yeah, but are politicians that cheap? I don't get it. I literally don't get it, dude. But yeah. So 9 children reported dead in Israeli airstrikes on Gaza.
More than 20 people, including 9 children, are reported to have been killed in Israeli airstrikes on Gaza after dozens of rockets were fired from the territory towards Jerusalem and other cities. The deaths came on a day of escalating violence between Palestinians and Israeli security forces who have clashed daily in Jerusalem since Friday at the Al-Aqsa compound. The past few days have seen the worst violence in Jerusalem for years, with more than 300 Palestinians wounded in confrontations with Israeli police. Our Middle East correspondent Yulan Nell is in Jerusalem for us now. Yulan.
In the last hour, rockets are still being fired from Gaza into southern Israel. Hamas-run TV says more than 200 rockets have been fired in just the past few hours. Here in Jerusalem, Israelis are still very shocked by the sirens that they heard during the day. And in Gaza, the streets are empty as people fear what happens next. Our blood is a cheap price for Jerusalem, shouts this bereaved Gaza grandmother. while this woman, who lost 4 children, can only weep. The casualties mounting after Israeli airstrikes.
This evening, Jerusalem Day, Gaza's terror organizations crossed the red line and attacked us with rockets on the outskirts of Jerusalem. Israel will react very forcefully.
His response to a barrage of rockets fired by Palestinian militants. Israelis ran for cover when one reached Jerusalem for the first time in years, while angry Palestinians cheered. Tensions were simmering on this holiday when Israelis marked the capture of East Jerusalem over 50 years ago.
There's a party atmosphere here as Israelis are gathering from all across the country. They're about to head down towards the old city and the Western Wall. For them, this is a big day of celebration. For Palestinians,
I ever wonder why the press never really goes into Gaza? It's because they know that Israel is stronger than Palestine. The Israelis are going to attack Palestinians, and Palestinians are their rockets, so their firepower is not strong enough to reach Israel. So the press is almost always, let's be honest, on Israeli side. They always are able to report shit from Israel and not Palestine. If there's something I'm saying wrong, please feel free to correct me, but this is just my opinion and perception on what I know.
this march is a provocation.
Why am I here? Because we're not going to let anyone win when they're going to threaten us and try to...
You fucking idiot. You are literally celebrating a win and you're saying we're not going to let anybody win. Fuck yourself. What's wrong with you?
Stop us from being here and celebrate and dance. I mean, it's unbelievable.
What's unbelievable?
Earlier,
This is
inside Al-Aqsa
unbelievable.
Mosque, Ramadan worship had quickly turned into violence.
This is a mosque, by
Stun
the way.
grenades and stones in this site, sacred to Muslims and Jews. At this gate, there was frustration as Israeli police stopped Jews from entering. Tonight, the Al-Aqsa compound was literally ablaze. Below, the Israeli celebrations continued. The fire was put out, but what is...
Imagine dancing to another person's place of worship burning. Yeah, Michael, I agree. It's insane and wrong on all levels for sure. Oh God, oof.
flared up here
Frustration.
may be harder to extinguish.
Yolanda, the worst violence in Jerusalem for years. What has the international response been?
Well, there have been calls from the international community for calm, for restraint for weeks now, because this has been a very tense month of Ramadan. And it started with Israeli police blocking off one of the popular gathering points at one of the entrances to the old city where Palestinians like to go in the evening. Then there have been nightly clashes in this East Jerusalem neighborhood, Sheikh Jarrah. That's where Palestinian families have been facing eviction to make way for Jewish settlers. Israel did take some steps, like delaying a key court hearing in their case to try to lower the tensions, but it really appears that it was too late. The US Secretary of State has now condemned the rocket fire. He has called on all sides to take practical steps to try to de-escalate this very dangerous situation. We're getting a very similar message from the UK and from others as well.
Yolanda in Jerusalem, thank you.
I think I need a break, guys. Fuck. How long has it been? I feel like I've been on this for like years already. Yeah, I don't know. I can't. Oh, 50 minutes. It's been 50 minutes, almost an hour of this shit. And we haven't even covered half of it. Then there's that. Yeah, I want to show something. I just don't want to expose people. Give me a second. I'm gonna. There's this really interesting story that my friend, who's Palestinian, he shared. Let me read it to you. I don't want to say his name or show his face, but it's interesting. He messaged me. He said, I don't even know what to do. Being a Palestinian, what can I actually do? Yeah, I can't really find him at the moment. I can't really find what he shared at the moment. It's probably, as a story, it's probably gone. It basically talked about, what the Palestinian and the difference between the Palestinian and Israeli conflict. So, for example, another friend of mine shared this. What do you share? Yeah, I can't find a story. No, apparently all stories are missing. I mean, it is past 12, so I think everyone's reset. Yeah, let's just look into some other videos maybe. Just enlighten ourselves. What was it? Al-Aqsa Mosque attacked. Yeah, this one. The Guardian. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, but I want to take a break, but this is too big. Check that out, literally blood in the streets. Fuck. It's always hundreds of Palestinians and a few Israeli forces. Like I said earlier, I have no reason to hate Israelis unless they are out to kill Palestinians. I'm sure there are good Israelis in the world as well. It's never all Israelis. It's never all certain people of a religion or a country. It's never all of that. Yeah, I remember watching this as well. A friend of mine sent this to me.
The Al-Aqsa compound transformed into a battleground. Just under the Dome of the Rock, Israeli police unleashed clouds of tear gas, deafening and blinding stun grenades. While some Palestinians made their way out, others advanced, throwing stones and bottles at officers, at times coming face to face with security forces.
Everything that is happening is meant to drive people away and kick them out and try to empty Jerusalem completely.
For several days now, the East Jerusalem neighborhood of Shejara has become the center of unrest. After the Ramadan fast ended each evening, protesters took to the streets in solidarity with Palestinian families who face evictions. It's here where Israeli settlers hope to expand their presence. On Friday, Palestinians decided to take their demonstration to the Al-Aqsa compound just after the last Friday prayers of this year's Ramadan. The militant group Hamas, that controls the Gaza Strip, called on protesters to stay at the site until the end of the holy month.
The Israeli occupation must realize that the resistance is ready to defend Al-Aqsa at all costs.
The US, Israel's historic ally, called for de-escalation. The UN warned that forced evictions could amount to war crimes. Israel's Supreme Court is set to hold a hearing.
It's amazing that UN is chiming in right now and saying that evictions could be thought of as war crimes or something. What about every single thing else that is happening? Those are not war crimes. For decades, these people are being killed and raped and murdered. And that's not war crime, but eviction is a war crime. For fuck's sake, dude.
Hearing on the issue next Monday.
Jesus Christ. Oh God, this is so painful. Ethnic cleansing. Sounds about right.
Hundreds of Palestinians have been wounded after Israeli forces raided the Al-Aqsa Mosque this morning for the second time in 4 days. Al Jazeera reports Israelis fired rubber-coated bullets, tear gas, and sound bombs at Palestinian worshippers. Video posted online shows explosives, possibly stun grenades, being fired inside the mosque, which is the third holiest site in Islam. A warning to our audience, this segment contains disturbing video. Al Jazeera reports medical personnel were initially barred from reaching the injured Palestinians. Eyewitnesses described a scene of terror when Israeli forces began opening fire while people prayed.
We were praying in the mosque. Suddenly the soldiers vacated the mosque without any alert. They started to shoot the bombs, and there are many, dozens of injured, dozens of people who were injured from the bombs here and the bullets. It's amazing. This is a praying place, not for fight.
Al Jazeera reports 305 Palestinians were wounded, 228 have been hospitalized, with 7 in critical condition. Israeli forces also attacked the Al-Aqsa Mosque on Friday, on a night when at least 200...
It's really cute that she keeps on saying mosque wrong, but I do respect the fact that she's corrected herself several times.
5 Palestinians were injured. Today's raid came hours before Israeli nationalists were scheduled to begin an annual march through occupied East Jerusalem to mark Israel's 1967 capture of the area along with the West Bank and Gaza. Tension has been escalating in Jerusalem for weeks. On April 22nd, a group of right-wing Israelis marched through the old city chanting "Death to Arabs" and "May your village burn." Video from the night shows Israeli mobs attacking and harassing Palestinian families and throwing rocks at Palestinian buses and homes. Meanwhile, Palestinians have been staging weeks of protests to block Israel from evicting dozens of Palestinians in the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood of Jerusalem to give their homes to Jewish settlers. A court hearing on the eviction scheduled for today was postponed Sunday. The United Nations has described the planned eviction as a possible war crime. UN Rights Office spokesman Rupert Colville said last week, quote, "The occupying power cannot confiscate private property in occupied territory." This comes as the Biden administration is coming under increasing pressure to directly condemn Israel's actions. Last week, the governments of France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and Britain issued a joint call for Israel to stop all settlement expansion in the occupied territories. We go now to Jerusalem, where we're joined by Mohammed El-Kurd, a Palestinian writer and poet who's organizing to save his family's home in the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood of Jerusalem.
Was Michael saying, I wonder how many Israeli citizens are being treated like the Palestinians for condemning their government's actions. Sorry, Michael, I didn't really understand that. This is too late in the night. Could you explain a little bit? I wonder how many Israeli citizens are being treated like the Palestinians. But are being treated like the Palestinians for condemning the governments. Yeah, I mean, if what you mean is what I think is what you mean, I don't think people are. I mean, there are Jews in general. There are Israelis in different countries that are condemning this, the government's actions. I know that because I've seen those videos. Even today, we'll probably, as time goes by tonight, I'm probably going to share that as well with you guys if you're here for that.
First, give us the overall picture, Mohammed, of what has been happening. Describe what's been happening at the Al-Aqsa Mosque and all around the area, and then we'll talk about Al-Jarrah, Sheikh Jarrah.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, thank you, Amy, and it's a pleasure to be here with you. To sum up what's been happening in Al-Aqsa Mosque, it's complete state settler collusion. It's clearly that the Israeli occupation forces are working in service of the Israeli settlers to terrorize and assault Palestinian worshippers in their mosque. Today, Palestinians have been met with rubber-coated bullets in the face and in the upper body, tear gas inside the mosque at the women and the children praying in there, in addition to many other forms of brute force. The same thing is in Sheikh Jarrah, and this image becomes even more stark when compared by how the Israeli occupation forces are treating the settlers. Today, an Israeli settler ran over a Palestinian youth, and instead of being captured, the Israeli police
defended him,
raised his gun at Palestinians who were protesting this act of terrorism. So we're seeing clear state settler violence and clear state settler collusion in Jerusalem, in occupied Jerusalem.
And we're just about to see this next march. Can you explain what, quote, Jerusalem Day is and the significance of this mass march?
Definitely, it's an infamous march that I've witnessed every single year of my life, whereby Israeli settlers come from all over occupied historic Palestine and chant genocidal, racist chants against Palestinians. They destroy Palestinian property.
I'm so sorry, dude.
One time, a few years ago, I came home from school and I found the settlers sitting on my couch. This is the extent by which they behave, because they know they have impunity, because they knew they are going to suffer zero consequences from their state, who is a fascistic state to begin with.
How old are you, Mohammed?
I'm 22 years old.
So I want to go to a video that's gone viral on social media. It shows your twin 22-year-old sister, Muna El-Kurd, confronting an Israeli settler who's been living in a part of your house in Sheikh Jarrah for 12 years.
Jacob, you know this is not your house.
Yes, but if I go, you don't go back. So what's the problem? Why are you yelling at me? I didn't do this. I didn't do this.
But
it's easy to yell at me, but I didn't do this.
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
No one is allowed to steal it, ya ammi.
Can you explain this scene
What
and
the
talk more
fuck?
specifically about what's happening in Sheikh Jarrah right now?
Absolutely. The scene that you saw, Amy, is a scene of colonialism. People often think that colonialism is this archaic concept or a concept of recent memory, but in fact it's alive and well in Palestine. And this is a colonizer that happens to be from Brooklyn, as you can hear by the accent, who decided to find home in my backyard. This happens because we, as a community of refugees in Sheikh Jarrah, have been battling billionaire-backed, often US-registered settler organizations that employ these people to come and live in our homes and harass us and intimidate us. These people are not employed. These people are not families. They just come to terrorize us. Yesterday, our next door neighbor, Hajjaj family, his roof was invaded by settlers wielding stones, bags and bags of stones. What's happening in Sheikh Jarrah today is nothing short of ethnic cleansing. To help the people understand.
Just to understand, I mean, this man who is in your yard.
She literally can't believe it. This is that fucked up. That she literally can't.
Your family, your house got half occupied in 2009. You're living with them?
Shit.
Yeah, I mean, yes, in 2009 we were coming home from school and we found that the entire neighborhood was on lockdown. It was besieged from all areas, and there were more occupation forces and settlers than there were residents of the neighborhood, and they used tear gas and sound bombs and stun grenades to take over our home. And these settlers, these thieves, have squatted in our home since then, and obviously you cannot resist this. Or otherwise you will be shot and killed. We know how the Israeli occupation forces behave around Palestinians. We know how they target Palestinians.
Even the cat is like, what the fuck are we doing here, dude?
This is just a microcosm. You know, I know it sounds bizarre that an Israeli settler
Yes, it does.
is taking over half of my home, and likely there will be.
Hey, Michael Paul, thank you so much for joining. Take care of yourself. Bless you.
It's not as absurd when you put it in context of how the state
Please
of
come
Israel
back.
came about. It came about
And
by
follow and subscribe if you can.
Hundreds and
Cheers.
hundreds of Palestinian cities and villages and taking over Palestinians' homes. Today, all over historic Palestine, there are settlers who are living in homes that were once Palestinian.
In response to the violent crackdown of Palestinian protesters in Jerusalem, Congressmember Rashida Tlaib, whose parents are Palestinian immigrants, tweeted this weekend, "Too many are silent or dismissive of our U.S. tax dollars, continue to be used for this kind of inhumanity. I'm tired of people functioning from a place of fear rather than doing what's right because of the bullying by pro-Israel lobbyists. This is apartheid, plain and simple." Meanwhile, New York Congressmember Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted Saturday, "We stand in solidarity with the Palestinian residents of Sheikh Jarrah in East Jerusalem. Israeli forces are forcing families from their homes during Ramadan and inflicting violence. It's inhumane, and the U.S. must show leadership in safeguarding the human rights of Palestinians." She also condemned U.S. aid to Israeli forces and other repressive governments around the world, tweeting, "From the paramilitary violence in Colombia and Sheikh Jarrah to the detention of children on our own border and the militarization of U.S. police departments, the U.S. must seriously assess its role in state violence and condition aid." So talk about this place that is your home, your family's home. This is a flashpoint for so much of what's happening, as you said, a microcosm. Explain what the judge's ruling has been. Court was supposed to go into session today, but they've canceled the hearing because of the level of violence right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we think that this is a stalling on the Israeli judicial system's part. I want to make clear to all people watching that although we go to these courts, we do not believe in their jurisdiction over us. We are simply buying time in our homes. At the end of the day, these are colonial courts. These are courts that were built by and for Israeli settlers to uphold Jewish supremacy. And the Israeli authorities are unabashed and explicit in maintaining this Jewish dominance in Jerusalem over the indigenous Palestinians. We are waiting, but we're not expecting much of a settler judge and a settler jury, to be completely honest with you. I am glad on a congressional level, people are speaking out against this, and on a grassroots level internationally, people are speaking out against this. Every single year, Israel receives $2.8 billion in military aid. Biden has been consistent in refusing the idea of conditioning military aid to Israel. I don't want him to condition it. I want him to end it altogether, and I want him to end any kind of military aid to any country that has a police brutality problem like Colombia. But obviously this necessitates the United States acknowledging that it has an imperialism problem to begin with. So we do call on the Biden administration to take action against the evictions that are a war crime. But I also will not forget that my home, half of my home and my neighbor's home, Ghawi and Hanoun families, were taken under the Obama administration with Biden as a vice president.
So let's talk about what the Biden administration has said. You have the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, saying the United States has serious concerns about the violent clashes between Palestinians and Jerusalem. He told Israeli National Security Advisor Meir Ben-Shabbat U.S. officials will press for steps to ensure calm, de-escalate tensions, and denounce violence, adding that the launching of rocket attacks from Gaza towards Israel is unacceptable and must be condemned. That, again, the Israeli National Security Advisor. If you can respond to this. So he has expressed, quote, serious concerns. Last week, the governments of France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and Britain issued a joint call for Israel to stop all settlement expansion in the occupied territories.
We welcome all of the international condemnations that we are seeing from countries, be it the United States or otherwise, but we want more than just condemnations. We want occupation. I think you can de-escalate the situation and the tension and the violence in Jerusalem by ending the occupation. That is the only solution. It is insane for Palestinians to continue living under this occupation for 73 years. What's the situation in Jerusalem isn't that there's a Palestinian Authority and other Palestinian parties involved. There's Palestinian people, grassroots individuals without any kind of leadership who are finally saying no and continually saying no to ethnic cleansing in Jerusalem and otherwise. And there's an occupier, an occupying entity that is using brute force and fascism and apartheid to suppress any kind of peaceful protest or any kind of protest altogether. In the past 2 weeks, our neighbors' homes and our own homes have been sprayed with skunk water that I can smell them from a few blocks. We've had so much stun grenades and tear gas. My own brother, not that he's different from other people, but my own brother has been arrested. Many people have been arrested. A person lost his eyes in Al-Aqsa Mosque. We are seeing the Israeli government terrorizing Palestinians. We are seeing the Israeli government literally doing everything it can to terrorize Palestinians, whereas Israeli settlers can just walk around our neighborhoods, steal our homes, and wield their guns, no questions asked whatsoever. They can invade our homes and be told all is good by a police officer, and they can just go back, no consequences. There's clear asymmetry here. I think apartheid is an understatement, but it's a good starting point. This settler colonialism in Palestine must stop because it's killing all of us.
Human Rights Watch using that term apartheid to describe what's happening in the occupied territories for the first time last month. I want to turn to a Palestinian man named Mahmoud al-Marboua, who witnessed the Israeli assault on the Al-Aqsa Mosque Saturday.
They don't want us to pray. There's a fight every day. Every day there are clashes. Every day there are troubles. They've been stopping us from entering inside the old city for a whole week. Why? They did not allow us in yesterday. Why? Why are they doing this to us? They're making us crazy. They're making us explode. Look at how they're firing at us. How can we live? Is this the normal life? What is this? Look at the problems. Look at how they're standing around. They are throwing bombs at us and they can't see anyone.
So, Mohammed, as we begin to wrap up now, you live between here and Sheikh Jarrah, where you went back to with all that is happening there and to protect your family home. Can you talk about what you see happening? I mean, is it conceivable by the end of the week, the Israeli Prime Minister, who himself has been indicted for corruption, Benjamin Netanyahu, might not even be the Prime Minister anymore? And does that even make a difference with who is the leadership in the Israeli government?
I think as long the leadership is spearheaded by settlers, then settlements will prevail in our countries. I do not want to be living under Israeli rule to begin with, and I don't rely on the Israeli authorities, on the Israeli occupation forces to protect me. Although they are mandated to do so under international law, I think it's pointless for us to expect a person who is beating us up, assaulting us, terrorizing us, to be told to stop and then have them stop. There must be international intervention. There must be sanctions against the Israeli government. That is the only way the occupation must end. And it's also important to note that what's happening in Sheikh Jarrah is not new, and it's not unique, and it hasn't started or ended with an Israeli prime minister. It's happening in Silwan, where 100 homes are being demolished and 1,000 people will be homeless. It's happening in the South Hebron Hills, where people's villages are being declared as military zones and green zones. It's happening all across historic Palestine. It's the Israeli colonialism that started in 1948, and it continues to do so. The only difference is it replaced weapons and artillery with a judicial system that is inherently colonial. So I call on the international community, but also I call on people, free people in the world, to take action against this, to end Israeli occupation of Palestine altogether. It's not just about Sheikh Jarrah, it's about the entirety of Palestine that is being devoured by the beast of Israeli colonialism.
Damn, that was good stuff. Okay. I'm gonna log off for now. I have work tomorrow. I wanna stream longer, to be very honest, but this is like actually genuinely disturbing to watch. I don't know about you guys. I've only heard from this guy named Michael. Michael, thank you for subscribing and giving your input. Anybody else who's watching and who has watched, if you guys want to follow some streams, let me know what you think is interesting for you guys, and I would love to be able to talk about things, try to educate myself and you and the audience. Basically, I'm not saying you're uneducated, but yeah. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for being here. I hope this Israel-Palestine conflict comes to an end soon. It's wishful thinking. I personally don't think it's gonna end soon. I just think that people need to do a lot more to figure things out. This atrocity needs to end. It's been a while, and to be very honest, I would like to stream this all fucking night. The only problem I feel is too much emotional shit for me to handle. I've stopped myself from crying multiple times during this past hour, and yeah, I'm just probably gonna have nightmares tonight. Take care of yourselves. Please like, share, subscribe. We're not here for me. We're not here for anybody else, but we're here for the content. This particular video is for the Palestinians and Palestinians alone. I hope anybody in Palestine who is there they're somehow safe, somewhat safe. And if there's anybody in Palestine who actually sees this video and would like to have a chat, to expose something more from within the country, please hit me up. I'll check my messages. I'll list down my socials down in the description of this video, so you guys can basically so you guys will basically know what's happening. Again, thank you so very much. Thank you so very much for being here on this journey. I'll talk to you guys soon. Until then, take care of yourself, and I'll see you later. Cheers, man. Stay safe.